Hey, everybody. Welcome back in to the Horseshoe Lounge. It is the live show on the podcast, and it's a Monday.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
Glad to see you're alive.
Yeah. No, it was touch and go.
Well.
I had to be back ready.
What happened?
Well, last week I had to miss the show. I was feeling a little under the
That's
weather.
right.
Had to pump myself full of
I guess
drugs.
I saw you at the coaches clinic. So.
Yeah, well, because I had to be ready for Thursday night. That was the most important part. Could have missed Wednesday's press conference with Ryan Day. Doesn't matter. Bill would have had that covered. Coaches clinic. Spring game.
You need players. players.
That's right.
Is that what Coop said? Yeah, I could hear Coop saying it.
Among other things.
What's one of the keys? You have to recruit players that can play above your coaching ability.
Got to make you look good.
When we had Eddie George running behind Orlando Pace, we could call some damn plays.
We call anything we wanted. Those guys are going to get it done.
I mean, you go watch them run power. You have like Corey Stringer and Pace.
Oh, gosh.
They're like washing the three technique past the center. It's like a straight downhill run. And you have a guy like 240 pound.
Yeah.
Pretty good running back.
Coming out of the backfield.
A Minotaur running downhill at you. Just a monster. I mean, it was crazy.
Great
crazy.
players.
You have to have guys that when you get a delayed game, you can throw the ball to like Terry Glenn on 3rd and 12 because you just couldn't get the darn play in time.
It was quite a scene. That's why I had to be back and ready for that. And, of course, to be back here. I couldn't miss a second week in a row in Roosters, a fun casual joint. So I am back. And so is Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Bill Landis, and I, of course.
Billy, don't you lose my number.
We're off to a flying start. Bob seems like I'm more depressed, like spring ball's over.
It's the last day of class for the guy almost.
Bob's flying in here riding high today.
Monday, it's a good Monday.
Teach my class. End of semester's next week, so we have final class, presentations Wednesday, exam on next Monday. So like on Mondays, I do 3 to whatever time it starts, 6 to 9 local.
Too early.
And then I go straight from that and talk for 80 minutes in class. Come here with you. Go home. I'm like, I don't even tell Courtney. Just let me sit in silence because I'm like, I have to do my second class from 3:50 to 5 or 3:50 to 5:15. Like I talk more on Mondays than any human. I talk more on Mondays than Timmy Hall and Tim May combined.
Oh man, I don't know about
Two
that.
Tims and a microphone.
I got Tim May on Saturday. It was a long spring game, first half.
It was good.
JC thought that it was great to have Justin there to watch live.
Hey, it was fun to get into the stadium a little bit.
And then he realized that maybe immediately to my left is not the place that you want to be if you want to watch football.
Well, one, you guys are getting crushed by the sun for the first quarter, sitting in that first row.
In the press box?
But,
we are
two, man.
Ants under a magnifying glass for a noon kickoff.
If I didn't hear Night Train, Night Train, train them one more time, I might have jumped out the window from up there.
At one point, Bill was just
He's so funny.
Nobody calls him that.
I might start calling him that.
Okay.
Oh, don't do it.
His name is already like
Chip is already even his real name.
It's already a great name.
It's already shortened from Diamante Trainum.
Yeah,
that's a long name to say.
I think Chip really just brings it home.
Chip works.
He's got a nickname.
If he was just Diamante Night Train, then I think you could maybe get there.
Diamante Night Trainum.
But I mean, Chip, Grandpa Chip,
more off the bridge.
Come on, Chip.
I love the way they're talking to you.
Come on, Chip. I love Chip's such a great.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even recognize him when he came back from the bowl game. He shaved off his braids.
Yeah.
And
all business.
Mick had this dude breaking down. I'm like, I thought it was maybe one of the new guys. I was like, well, it's obviously not Igman Newsom. Like he's taller. I'm like, is this one of the transfers? Like we're just having a new dude run or like an early enrollee break the guys down first day of workouts. Who is that guy?
Night Train.
Oh, it's Night Train.
The Night Train.
Yep.
He had one heck of a spring camp.
Oh,
he's a fast dude.
Yeah, he looked good out there.
Had a touchdown there on Saturday. Yeah. Got to the corner, and then he was gone. I think
felt like he was surprised to get to the corner, and then it was like, I got to run the rest of this.
Yeah, is somebody going to tag me?
There weren't a whole lot of corners to be had in practice usually.
Yeah.
All right. So didn't think we'd start there with Chip Trainum, but we can.
Hey, he had the longest play of the day.
It's just in my. I've been hearing that in my head all weekend.
Him and Archie making it happen for the running game.
Yeah, how about that? Arch getting a carry on the spring game.
I like them spicing that up.
I don't like that they counted the touchdown.
They should have had him live. If you want to spice it up, have him live.
That was the part. Like the first team offense was out there, and then they were struggling to score, and then they got
like bring Archie in.
Like if
that's the card's a wild card. Archie's wild. Oh,
I had set the line pregame I adjusted it to the defense to win by 30. If I had put real units on that and Archie just gets a free touchdown, I would have jumped out of the press box under Jay-Z.
I think they probably anticipated to be a little bit of a shorter run, but the fact that this might be as close as we're getting.
We got to bring him in now.
We missed the field goal earlier. We don't need any more of that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Archie good with a 50-yarder? Okay. Take your time.
It's hot out. It's 75 degrees out here. My goodness.
Impressive yards per carry, 25 for the two-time Heisman winner.
Yes.
Bill, where do you want to begin this Saturday?
Where do I want to begin? I don't know. I'm curious what these guys thought of Kyle McCord. Like, I think a lot of fans are like freaking out because he didn't throw 6 touchdown passes, but it's the spring game. So what did you guys think?
Spring game, there's limited plays. Okay, they could have thrown it to Marvin 45 times for 4,000 yards if they wanted. Maybe not that. I mean, he obviously is in bubble wrap.
He was getting
too.
pretty open.
He was pretty. Yeah, he was open on a few.
If you're not, here's the thing with a guy like him. This is why the spring game. If you're just going to try to play normal defense against a guy like that, you're done.
Oh yeah.
There's not a defense you have called like, hey, when he's here, we're playing this. We're always going to have at least 2 sets of eyes on this guy. Like that's any team's going to do that. If you don't, you see what happened on Saturday. I go back to remembering watching Justin when he first, not you, Justin Fields when he first got to Ohio
much
State.
better to watch.
Not in his first spring game.
No,
fair.
And when he got here, I remember watching him throw. And I'm like, oh gosh, this guy. I always leaned back to Ryan Clark, who told me he's like, I watched him play against Trevor Lawrence in like one of those 7-on-7 deals. He was the best player at camp. I'm like, really? He goes, dude can play. He goes, you guys got to shuffle the ball. And then I watched him come here. He's like spraying working on the deep outs and times. He's just spraying it all over the place. I'm like, oh gosh. And I'm like, Ryan said he was really good. He's throwing against nobody right now, just at a target, and we're missing it a lot.
We're going to trust Ryan, though.
And then in the spring game, like, it didn't really get a lot better here. And we threw one bomb to a wide open guy. And then ultimately you saw what Justin Fields was at Ohio State. And even in that first year was really stinking good. Had them a couple bad calls away from playing for a national championship against Joe.
Yep.
So I think Kyle did some good things. He missed like an out, sure. But I thought he was pretty accurate. And the other thing is, too, I know you couldn't be hit. But, I mean, there were guys around. There's a lot of guys around him all the time. I mean, it was not a clean.
Under a great deal of pressure.
It's not a clean pocket, if you would
He's
say.
definitely been, I feel like dealing with that all spring long, right? So, I mean, it becomes almost a second thing for a quarterback. I got to get the ball out quick, or I got to get out of the pocket because these people are all around me. I thought he looked good for a spring game. I mean, I'm not going to worry too much about it. It's like the first play of the game. He throws an out, and I actually got to meet him yesterday at the 4-miler. He actually knew where I was from. He said, Massillon. I said, well, good for you.
Oh, wow.
That surprised the heck out of me.
His dad's a little bit older than us.
Well,
he's
he's
a
like,
big Ohio State fan.
Yeah, so he was like, oh, Massillon. I said, oh, wow. Now he rooms with Jaden, so maybe there's that as well. But
Do you think that Jaden knows where you're from?
Well, I know. I just said, tell Jaden, I said, what's up? And I'm like, he probably has no idea who I am. But good for you, Kyle. So scored a point there. But, he's like, said, it's a spring game. How'd you feel? He's like, I felt pretty good about it. He's like, it's just, he knows how it is. It's hard. He's like, first play of the game. I think he was talking about the first play of the game. He threw that out. Because you have Marvin. I got Denzel 7 yards off of him. He didn't move at the snap. So that's he's like, they know our plays, they know our sets, they know what's coming, type thing. So that's the tough thing for a quarterback, even when the defense is playing base defense. Until Burke knows I'm going to run
running base offense.
Yeah, you're running a base offense. So it's like, if he doesn't backpedal to 10 yards, this 5-yard or 6-yard out or hitch is not going to work very well.
Oh, he knows. They've done like drive starters. Like, hey, Marvin's out here. Here's the split. Usually you're playing some sort of soft. It's free access coverage. We'll pick up a quick 5 to 7. Getting good.
Yeah, and as a quarterback, you're saying, all right, he's off 7 yards. He's going to at least backpedal a little bit. I got Marvin Harrison out here. But he doesn't, and so it looks like, oh, what was that ball? Yeah. Oh man, that was a bad throw into coverage. So you have to deal with that sort of thing. But he made all the throws. Some of the one to Ballard on the far sideline. Over a guy. You don't want to make that throw a ton, but he can do it, and he put it right there for him. So I don't ever want to I'm not saying he's the starter hands down, but I think he made every throw that we needed him to make. He looked decent in the pocket from huddle to line of scrimmage. He wasn't making any checks or anything really, but it looked like he had command of what was going on. And I think that's a big thing coming out of spring. He stayed healthy. 2, he has command of the offense, knows what they're trying to do, and he can make any throw that he needs to.
Outside of it being perfect, you said he made a couple high level throws that saw like, okay, here's potential for what he can be. And then also like he didn't look frazzled and just a mess. It's okay. He played a pretty decent game, made some high level throws. You can build for a guy that's kind of your first time in the spotlight like that. Like it's a pretty darn good job with those expectations on you. And let's also remember this: it was base defense, but it depends. Teams all do it differently. I mean, they had a fully healthy secondary out there.
Yeah.
So the guys that he was going against, like some of the time, like we always talk about, the offensive line, the secondary, the two positions that can get beat up a lot, and when you have to have like 5 and 6 DBs on the field, and you only have like 4 healthy ones. Yeah. Depending on the drop-off, you can usually find some pretty advantageous matchups if you've got a corner wearing like 46.
Yeah.
You know, like,
you got to walk on out there like, I'm coming at him right here. Here we go.
He was going against dudes that are going to be playing, and I thought the secondary played pretty good. I mean, there was no really wide-open guys. There weren't a lot of busts. There was contested balls, and so playing against pretty good players, it's basic, but you don't have your full – once you took Marv off, you did not have a starting receiver out there returning from last year, which all 3 are coming back, and Xavier Johnson. So once you had Marv, you're on your 5th guy, and I thought it was great for Jaden Ballard, who went out there and it's like, hey, everyone's deep ball, catching drags, catching
different things,
catching crossers, catching outs, some sevens, and did a lot of stuff. So I thought it was great for some of those guys to get some work, but everyone wanted to be paranoid. Like, go back and watch Justin. Oh.
Yeah,
it was so
I believe
bad.
it was 4 for 13.
Yes.
In that game.
Was that what that was? Yeah.
Bill, you're a sicko. You rewatched it. Did it?
I did rewatch it.
I watched it yesterday.
Did your perception change at all?
Yeah, I think so. I came away feeling a little bit better. I thought there were times where, because the protection was so bad for the majority of the game, where it seemed like Kyle was reacting to stuff that maybe wasn't quite there. But I also think that's maybe natural. Maybe he understands that more. Mm-hmm. But like the misses, right? The people are freaking out about, like he missed Jaden Ballard down the field and that ball ran off his hands. Like Mike Hall was right here, and Kyle had to like go like this and throw the ball. Like he couldn't get everything on it. He missed Joe Royer on that corner. I think it might have been Mike Hall again, was like right here, and he had to like throw it over him. Like there are reasons at least why he missed those throws. Like in a game, do you want him to figure out the issue and make the throw? Probably. In that setting, I'm not sure it's the end of the world. And I thought the throws that he did make showed you a pretty good array of what he could do. That touchdown from the far hash to the front pylon, 40 yards of Carnell Tate. It's like, okay, we can work.
And that was a ball. I mean, that was a ball. It was like a lot of those times the receiver comes back down to here. Boom. Right there. I mean, it was like it went to his chest. I mean, that had some velocity on it. That, I mean, he's got everything he needs there to pull that trigger. But I mean, that was watching that ball. I just expect it to be back here a little bit, but no, it just went right to his chest. Like it was a perfect ball.
Yeah, like I said on Monday's morning show, like I thought there was an opportunity for him to really slam the door shut, and he didn't do that. But I think it's okay. I don't think it's over, but I also don't think that I come out of the spring game thinking like Kyle's not it.
Yeah, it kind of feels like if Ohio State wanted to end the quarterback battle, they could have, because they could have just let Marvin stay out there with Kyle and like, hey, look, remember when these guys played together?
Go 8 for 8 here and pick up 150 yards and make this number look a little bit better.
Remember their high school teammates, and they've got a great rapport, and they threw for 300 yards against the defense, like, because no one can cover Marvin. Like, they could have done that. Yeah. They didn't, and I think Bill made this point on Saturday. Like, Ohio State ran the ball more in a scrimmage setting than I would have imagined, way more than they did.
Especially when it's non-tackle.
Yeah, and the ones that we watched before, and it was all like, was there a reason behind that? I don't know. Maybe.
Like, I think part of it too is they want to try to establish a run game.
Really got to get that O-line some work. On the run game. Yeah, get downhill and get your hands on.
They're definitely better at run blocking than they are pass protection.
They are, and
just to be. I mean,
you're gonna have 5 running backs in the room, so I think part of it is like, hey, we get Dallin and Chip some work and see what they can do. I mean, I thought Dallin ran well and looked like what he did. Chip, same thing, and you need to get work for your defense too. Talk about some of the long runs and stuff that were ripped off. Okay, well, they had one. If it's touch, like, I don't know if you really get that feeling or sense, like, okay, this is something we missed the gap. We need to be on that, So that I think that there's just, you have to eventually tackle and do something in this game. You can't just sit here and throw and, oh, hey, we got you. Like,
you got to bring it. You got to get through the block and make a tackle instead of just reaching over and tapping somebody and hearing a whistle. But what are you going to do? It's a spring game. Everybody came out healthy for the most part, right?
Everyone walked out.
That's the most important thing in that game. Be done with it. Have everybody healthy and know what they need to do moving forward.
Yeah, that was not the case at this time last year for Ohio State as they wrapped up spring camp. Let's get into some Roosters Buckeye leaves. Let's do it. You can do it for the entire spring if you want, or you can just honor somebody from the spring game. I don't care. There's no rules. It's just right.
That's the wrong restaurant.
Oh, sorry. It's a fun, casual game.
It's a fun, casual Buckeye Leaf.
JC, go.
I'm going with my
He's
guy.
going to go with Jaden
Ballard.
Nailed it. I should bet on this show.
Doesn't even know who you are.
We don't know. That's not confirmed. His roommate did, or at least he knew the high school I was from. But I mean, this is a kid who I think we've been waiting for him to come out and make a splash. Now, it was a spring game. It is what it is. He made some nice plays. Could he be, a third or fourth guy who's getting a lot of playing time, taking the top off? Is he more than taking the top off now? Has he gotten better? Is it, Kyle said, he's been working a ton on just becoming a complete receiver. And I think you saw a little bit of that yesterday because, early on, I think that was his thing. Not catching, he doesn't catch the ball well. Now he's going to have some drops. I think he could have had one. That was a really good ball over down the hash.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he could have had that one.
And the punt over his head.
Yeah, well, and the punts are that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But I think he's becoming a better, more well-rounded receiver. And I know we have tons, and we have Marvin, and we got a lot of guys. But another Massillon guy, Devin Smith, when he scored, we won every game. So it's like to have that guy who can get deep and put that pressure on the defense is only going to help Marvin Mecca. I mean, I think having him in there could be big. So. He had a great game, made some great catches, and I'm going with him.
I think it was good for him to be the featured guy. Once you took Marvin out, he was the veteran guy, the featured dude. And so I think that responsibility,
I think
giving that to him.
Yep. And I think being a roommate with the quarterback, I mean, you got to have, you have, that kind of relationship. I'm sure hey, I'm going to throw, you're coming with me. You got
one better or two.
I think it's one. I think they are really in on it.
Wow.
And I think it's a loft. So there's not much room in there.
Tighten it.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly.
Got no choice.
But you saw it. It's working for him on Saturday. They were, right there.
Late night conversation.
I've got a lot of it's very Step Brothers-esque.
Yeah.
A lot of room for
so much activities.
Gosh, I almost want to schlegs this thing.
I know
up
you're
and
going
just give it to a bunch. I'm going to be honest. One guy though, is Berm going to give a Buckeye Leaf when he joins us?
You can do it before him. He can talk.
He's acting like he's not listening.
He is, but he knows.
He's always listening.
He knows.
His ears burn.
He does.
He's got the berm sense is tingling. Is somebody about to say Cameron Martinez?
Exactly. I even got a chance to talk to Cam's dad. We had a great.
Hey, it's not a good family.
Ooh, that made him mad right there. He said, "What? I didn't get to talk to him."
He told me to tell Berm hi though.
Well,
so take it easy on Berm. Those are his words. I'm like, listen, just like my brother was up in GR. But Cam, I thought, had a really good spring. And I always love this when, they bring in Jihad Carter from Syracuse. Good player. It's no different than
the biggest safety in the portal, right? I mean, that's a big get.
And who also, life works out in a very unique ways sometimes. And, Cam was playing well. Jihad got nicked up, wasn't able to kind of, finish the spring. We're bringing in David Igmanuson, who's a good player, but, looking at Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock, hey, do you guys want to be the dudes? I mean, Jair Brown, you want to be a dude? They're bringing in guys because they have to, but it's a challenge. But with Cam going through that, and especially coming off last year, and ending the season, the Michigan game, the double move and all that, I thought he played really well. He had a handful of interceptions in camp, looks confident, and Cam may not be the straight line fastest guy in the world, but he is unbelievably agile. His change of direction is elite. And you can tell he just has a better feel for the game now coming out of the spring. So I was really, really happy for him, what he was able to do. I was pretty happy for Cody Simon. He became the veteran guy then without Steele on there. It's now you're the man. You weren't a starter. You played a lot last year, but one of the guys was Tommy and Steele mostly. You came in the 3 linebacker sets. And so that was good for him to get that. I thought he played well. CJ Hicks played well. I thought, honestly, all 3 of the linebackers did a pretty good job. Gabe and Reed as well, playing yesterday, all kind of stepped up and in a big way. And so I know it's mostly, defensive focus, but those guys, because that underneath area there between coverage and run fits is going to be big. And I thought some young guys who you haven't either seen a ton from or, maybe kind of felt like they might not be the answer. I think maybe
seeing some things where maybe they could be.
They could be the answer. They answered some questions or they put themselves in the conversation.
I think it definitely helps Berm when people other than me or him talk about Cameron Martinez.
Yeah, I think it does.
People take that more seriously.
Yeah.
Here they go again. Talking about the guy who got burned against Michigan.
His dad's honestly, when I talked, I'm like, I know why your son is not. I told him that. I love talking to the parents. Talk to Paris Johnson's mom. Like, she's great. Like, fantastic. His dad, Cam's dad, was awesome. Like, now I know why your son is a high-grade human being. Seriously. Occasionally I've met people that, like, way exceed their level of parenting. Like Coach Coop, you want players better than your coaches. You want your kids to be better than the level of parenting you provide.
Yeah.
And that has happened before. It happens a decent amount. But it's a lot easier when you have parents that are a stabilizing force that, hey, I know things aren't going well, but stay the course. Keep working on this. Don't listen to all the nonsense. And, the world isn't against you. That you'll get opportunities. Just keep doing the right things. And so that's why I'm glad that everything's going that way for him.
I go with Denzel Burke. I think, Bob mentioned him, but I thought he had a really good spring game and just a real presence about him throughout all of camp. We talked a lot about how Davis and Igbinosun kind of raised the competitive level in that room. Like, I'm not so sure it wasn't Denzel Burke who did that. It might have done it more. He just had a different way about him this spring, and he was talking after the game about how confident he is, how much fun he's having playing football. And I just don't think last year was very enjoyable for him with all of his injury stuff and people questioning, like, is this guy really that good? He's got to back all that up now once fall comes along. But I thought if you could kind of like draw out what a perfect spring might look like for Denzel Burke in a little bit of a rebound year, I thought he had it. So I'm excited about him. I think, I don't know, this is going to be a first rounder. I have no idea. But if we're eager to see like those dudes get back in the quarterback room in particular, I think Denzel's got a real shot to do it this year.
You mentioned playing well, but then also he stayed healthy, which was really nice. And when he's healthy, he plays well. And so
it's got to feel good for him too, coming off a year where he wasn't, and everybody's saying, "Well, what happened?"
The last thing you want to deal with is a broken hand or wrist or an ankle, knee, like something going into the summer. Yeah, shoulder, like going into the summer where it's like instead of focusing on getting better as a player, you're focusing on getting better with your injury,
feeling good, so you can go out and play your game.
You got Austin.
I try not to do this, and I failed this spring. True freshman, I try to temper expectations, and I don't expect them to play.
Carnell Tate,
two of them, Carnell Tate and Jelani Thurman, and I've said this a number of times. It's like Jelani Thurman has 2 strikes. He's a true freshman and he's a tight end. Like, I'm not. Why am I going out of my way to say
never
that this
catch
guy
a ball again?
He had a great spring. For somebody at that position who's got a lot to learn, a development spot. He jumped really in all 15 practices, and at least the 5 that we saw. He was out there, not just like in the mix. Sometimes you saw him with the 1s, depending on the scenario, but he played a lot with the 2s. He got a lot of reps, and he handled them quite well. He's really unique in terms of the athleticism that he brings to that position. What does it mean in September? I have no idea. Probably not as much as it seems in April, but he's got major potential, and so does Carnell Tate. And again, when we're talking, Bob, about you have the first 4 missing, and then you want Jaden Ballard in there, and he's made a case he's going to be. That's 5. There's not a lot of reps available. Carnell Tate is extremely good, and there's nothing wrong with being the 6th best wide receiver in the best wide receiver room in America. He's got a chance to be that. That's like, it sounds like faint praise, but that's high praise.
Praise. I like it. One of the other things you saw in the game is, and maybe this was probably due to receiver depth, but I do think the creativity and Justin Fry, coming in and some of the things he wants to do. You saw some like 12 and 13 personnel, which that's 2 and 3 tight ends on the field.
Yeah.
And so if Jelani Thurman plays well, I mean, obviously you have Joe Royer, Cade Stover's there, but just the more guys you can get, and if you can throw packages out like that, it's a pain in the ass for defenses to prepare for, and it gives you a much
you can have a legit playbook with with those guys in there. I mean, that gives a defense so much more they have to worry about.
Come out one series, and all of a sudden you go 3 wides, and you go these.
You're still able to do a lot of what you like,
and they're all 3 pretty good wide receivers. And so if you can block and do some stuff, and let's face it, you may have to do a little bit of that early on to kind of help out the offense.
Yep.
Yeah, Ryan Day mentioned that on Wednesday that 13 could be in the mix, and I'm like, ears perked up on that. Then go to the
they ran 13 in the game.
Go to the Chalk Talk on Thursday night and be like, hey, Coach Bailey, I have a question for you. How do you use 13 that's not just short yardage or goal line situation? Like, it seems like that would be mostly where you would want it. Well, glad you asked, Austin. You can run the entire offense with our 13 personnel. They can do every route.
Yeah.
And then you have the ability to not only run into short yardage, but then you could go tempo from that and catch people out and get some matchups going.
You can flex. If people want to try to match you
it could be
personnel, like Joe Royer's and we didn't really talk about him, but I thought he had a very good spring too. But you can flex like Royer and Thurman, like that gives you some options.
G. Scott,
G. Scott, I didn't mention G. Scott.
Think about
they have a number of good
there.
tight end options that have high grade receiving capability and like speed and can stretch you. I mean, G. Scott was a former receiver, for heaven's sake. He might not be running a 4.4 anymore, but
still pretty fast for a tight end.
If you see people that put it out, okay, they want extra linebacker. If they stay, here's what it does: it forces you if they want to stay in their traditional personnel, like 5 DBs. All right, well, we're just going to run it on you.
Yeah, we're just going
to. If you want to try to match us like for like, I'll take our second or third tight end on your third safety or third linebacker, whoever you're putting on the field, because I like that matchup.
Bob, what are these?
Those are cheesy bacon fries.
Cheesy bacon fries.
My goodness.
What we did here,
what tell them about
it's a classic spin on the potato. We're going to take the potato and make a curly fry out of it.
Curl it first.
Then we're going to add the dairy component. We're going to add the cheese. And then we're going to bring it home
a little protein.
The pork and potato combo of this with the bacon. Yes. The cheesy bacon fries. It is the featured appetizer.
When can you get that, Bob?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Tuesday tax day, April 18th.
Hey,
how about that?
All right.
So after you're depressed or maybe excited because you're getting a refund, who knows?
Come spend some of that here.
$3 all day long. Get it.
Man, can't beat
It's
that.
a Threes Day.
Appetizer Threes Day. You don't want to miss it.
Don't.
On tax day.
Get some ranch or the spicy ranch would go really well with it.
Can't
I
go
love
wrong.
the spicy. You always order extra spicy ranch.
Spicy ranch is the way to go. All right. That's halftime of the live show at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. We're going to let Bill go, and we're going to let Berm have some thoughts, maybe talk more about Cameron Martinez. Who knows? Everything is on the table here as we feast at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. We'll be right back.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back into Roosters. Berm's here.
Hey, Berm.
Hey, this guy. Do you have a Buckeye leaf?
Yeah, and I also it's going to lead into a question that I have
cool. I
specifically for these guys over here. My Buckeye leaf for the spring goes to CJ Hicks, who I think really has elevated himself and put himself in the conversation that he almost has to be on the field a little bit more than he was a year ago.
Yep.
Certainly has to be on the field more than he was a year ago.
Yeah, more than zero?
But he's also putting himself in the point where this is the question. When you have a player on your team that you acknowledge and recognize is physically more talented probably than the guys playing in front of him.
Yeah.
Is there a moment that the guys on the team start to advocate for him to be on the field because he just makes plays?
They do. They can.
Understanding that it also it's a risk because maybe he will make more mistakes.
And that's the element. And that's the biggest thing with CJ. And it's a lot of young players. He'll make some great plays. And then you're like, but then like something simple, it's like, you expanded too much and covered too.
We can't have that, right?
It was 3rd and 12, and we gave up 15 yards because we did this or jumped whatever, and we talked about it all week. And so granted, while you had 2 PBUs and got a sack in a critical situation and a drive that could have maybe ended the game, you gave that up. And so that's just working through that with him. And CJ's a conscientious kid. He's working at it, and he's working to get more consistent. Some of that comes with reps. Like the fact that both Tommy and then ultimately Steele were out too, like it's the same with Jaden Ballard. I think when he got out there and he was running with the ones, like there's okay. Now you're the guy. There's expectations with this because when you mess up with the twos, like, all right, there's a lot of people expect it. No, when you're in the starting unit, the standard is the standard. Right. And we're out here, like we can't be having any tomfoolery, if you will.
No tomfoolery.
And just blowing an assignment. So people see what CJ can do. I think everybody openly acknowledges that. Like Tommy and Steele are really good.
Tom
Eikenberg.
Thomas.
What if that catches
Tom
I'm all
Eikenberg.
business. I'm now going by Tom Eikenberg.
And I have a mustache.
I mean, the guy was a second-team All-American, and Steele is
should have been first team.
Right?
Tommy should have been first team.
But like you look at Steele, got an interception in the Peach Bowl. Like pretty nice play. Rolls back across the middle, picks it off. Like there's dudes that can play. So my thing is like you always lean into your veterans, and this is what I hope they do. Like sophomore year and even our freshman year, they would work us in, like try to get us some reps, and especially early in the season. But then also, hey, you know what? Go in here, take this series. Maybe the offense is struggling a little bit, defense is playing well, but you've been on the field. Hey, keep guys fresh. Go get a series for Steele, or and Cody, get one for Tommy. Like, just enroll those guys a little bit. I'm not talking giving them 40 plays a game, but you can probably even in like critical games, give them between 3 or maybe a series 5 to 10 plays here and there, depending, as long as they're showing they can handle that.
Doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Cody Simon played a lot a year ago, but it was generally speaking when they were putting out a defense out there that required a third linebacker.
Yeah.
It wasn't in place of
somebody
Steele
that was
Chambers
there
for a rep or Tommy for a rep. Philosophically, does Jim Knowles have to change the way he's approaching that in your mind? Do you think that, hey, and now that James is there, and James will be doing a lot of the de facto linebacker coaching, do you see a scenario where you get, Indiana game, it's the middle of the second quarter, and Cody and CJ are out there for a series or two instead of Steele and Tommy?
I don't even think you have to do them together.
Right.
Like, you put Cody out for one series, put Tommy out there.
Probably more how it works, right?
CJ, yeah.
Because you have your veteran guy who you trust, and you bring in the younger guy who can, maybe bounce some things off of each other if they need to.
And I think that's probably the way that I hope that they do it. I know that James, I think because Fick would do it like that. And his thing is, like, if there's guys who deserve to be on the field, you need to get them on the field in some way. Now, like you said, that doesn't mean you're going out and playing 3 quarters as a starter, but if you deserve to be on there, we're going to give you what you can handle.
Yeah, but you think I would ask you, Bob, because you've kind of been through this in a way. I mean, your senior year, James Laurinaitis was a freshman, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had to come in and play for you when you got hurt in the Michigan game. Like, how much were they working him? I mean, because they knew he could play. I mean, I know he got thrust into it because of your injury, but I mean, he probably played that season.
Yeah, well, they would always get us out.
But you weren't taking you and AJ and Schlegel out because we knew what we had there.
And I think part of it is, strength of your team and, leadership.
How games are going and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like, hey, I had no problem. Listen, man, it's middle of second quarter.
Okay, we're up by a couple touchdowns. Let's get the young guy a couple plays or a series.
Get these dudes some snaps while the game's still in doubt. We're going to beat this team anyway, but, handle that, get them in. Okay, and middle of the third, end of the third, get these guys in, get them reps. Like, get them reps. I think that's important because that's, I got reps my freshman year, so it's big. Like, sophomore year, get these guys in. And if you're playing well, you know what? Maybe you leave them in for, hey.
You feel better about leaving them in, yeah. You're not pulling them as quick.
Take the next series, too. And this is nothing on the older guys. Like, hey, these guys got to play. You're still our starters. And, like, Tommy and Steele, like, Tommy's going to be a captain. Steele they might both be captains. I don't know. I mean, they're high-quality dudes who are going to make a lot of plays.
They're on the leadership committee.
They are. And I think those guys understand, like, leadership is also that's being the best version of yourself, go out and playing, but also doing what's best for the team sometimes, and best for the program and best for the development of everybody. And so I think that's kind of they'll help. And what's tough with Tommy and Steele is they didn't get the benefit of that because they came in during COVID and it was just a hot mess. And those guys weren't ready to play. They didn't get practice. And they only had 6 games, in the years, no spring ball. So they really weren't ready to play, and there was no opportunity to play them.
I wonder if some of the reluctance in Jim Knowles a year ago was that it's his first year there, trying to implement all the guys.
Sure, 100%.
Doesn't know everyone, has no loyalty to Hicks or the younger guys who he didn't recruit. Yeah. I wonder if that changes naturally.
They played more guys at Oklahoma State, I thought.
I mean, because you had to. I mean, you didn't have stars like you do at Ohio State. So, I mean, he was playing true freshman. I mean, that's sort of the one guy we talk about a lot from the Oklahoma State offense or defense is that Colin Oliver, who has a true freshman in 2021, had 13 sacks or something in the jack position, and
I bet he gets talked about more in Columbus than he does.
Yeah, because we're trying to figure out how is that guy
How'd
so
that
productive?
work?
How
that jack was so good.
How is that such a productive position there when you had a 6'2", 230-pound freshman linebacker who was a low-ranked 3-star coming in and wreaking havoc, and then at Ohio State you can't find someone.
We got rid of it after 1 year.
Well, they still.
Well, no, I know they still have it.
But I don't think they. I mean, they're putting all the eggs in one basket of Mitchell Melton, and because you didn't see throughout spring let's try Caden Curry there, or Jim Knowles one day brought up CJ Hicks, he could do it, but it's almost like they don't.
Well, some of it is with CJ, and I agree, it'd be a great way to get him on the field, and I think he would fit very well in doing that. But the part of the problem is giving young guys too much sometimes. Like if CJ had Will mastered and could go out there and play it, not a big deal at all. But he's still growing in that position. So I think that's kind of where this is, where It almost
but they put Jack Sawyer there, and he clearly was still learning how to play defensive end.
Oh yeah, literally, I think they were just trying.
I don't know if it's a necessity. Is the mother of invention, I guess, but it was certainly an interesting conversation that Knowles brought up that he thinks C.J. Hicks could be a guy that fits that spot, but then there was no deployment of it this spring.
Let's put it into action and see how it
the
does.
other thing is they didn't have.
Father of
so
invention?
here's the thing.
That's none of your damn business.
It's Immaculate Conception.
Oh, wow.
But that's the idea, just from the ether.
Okay.
They
I learned something new
at the end of the spring, CJ's running with the ones.
Yeah.
So I mean, I
don't
think
have time to play
I don't know.
jacket or-
I don't know if there was like you already were down Tom,
Yeah.
and then if once like
Thomas.
Steele goes down, Thomas. I mean, then okay, now you're running with the ones. So, and then some of it is like he was playing well and having productivity. Like we don't want to jack it up, literally
And figuratively.
I
think that's what makes this offseason this spring feel maybe more difficult to evaluate than any spring in the last handful of years, because there's so many guys missing and so many parts that are not out there that you can't really get a complete picture of where this team is going to be come August. And it makes these last 6 weeks, like you see reasons to be optimistic. You see really, elite players at points, but then you don't get to see everyone playing. There's a really great song playing, "Catch Me Now I'm Falling," on the radio here at Roosters. That's why Bob's dancing.
It's a banger.
It's not because he's trying to, ignore what I'm saying. It's just because he can't stop the music.
Can't stop the beat. I wonder if we got to see more of spring practice just because of what you said, that it's going to be impossible to fully evaluate. So it's like, just let him come in. It won't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. They won't be able to figure out.
At Jack next
They
year.
don't know the scheme anyway because they're media idiots. The personnel's going to be different by the end of the season. Everybody's pretty healthy right now, and then just come on in, no problem. Watch this.
We're not blocking anybody up front anyway.
It's just an offseason that doesn't, or a spring that doesn't feel like it really showed anything, and that's why I think some people are leaping to conclusions about Kyle McCord after Saturday or about the offensive line, and we're all guilty of it to some degree. The offensive line was not very good, especially in pass pro. We've talked about that at length, but there are so many things that are not in place that you cannot really judge where this team is going to be. Looking at the roster 1 to 85, it's one of the 3 or 4 most talented teams in the country, because that's what Ohio State is every year. But how does it all get pieced together is really, still at this point, kind of a great unknown.
So you're the recruiting expert here. Handicap them getting a tackle out of the portal.
Big one from.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking defensive, but
there's a couple out there, but the question is, and we've talked about this on other shows, what you're going to find at this point is not going to be a Ohio State caliber starting tackle. I don't think. And if it is, that player is either probably leaving his current school for off the field issues.
Perfect.
bring him shinkability.
Or leaving explicitly to test the NIL market and see if there's an opportunity to get paid. That's not generally where Ohio State wants to be. It's not where you're out recruiting. So, I think you could find depth. And I think you need depth, because at this point, I do believe that Luke Montgomery is in line to maybe be, fighting for a spot in the 2 deep come summertime. And so if you're looking at your tackle position, we talked about that a lot this morning on the Daily, was maybe it's time to start thinking about Donovan Jackson out to tackle and moving Josh Fryer back to right tackle, because you have more pieces that can be moved around at guard and the interior line, because the tackle depth is a problem, and you need one. But who do you
going to call?
That's nobody knows.
Has Ryan put out the tweet yet?
He hasn't.
Looking for.
You know where to find. I ain't hard to find.
If you just get Brutus out there with the help wanted sign,
it could be that meme.
Look, the thing is, they will probably bring in somebody through the transfer portal on the offensive line. I don't think they have room not to do that. Is that going to be someone who starts against Indiana? I would say highly unlikely that that's the situation.
Yeah, because spring practice is over. You don't have the why can't I never say that word?
The acclimation period?
Yeah.
Acclimation.
Acclimatization.
Acclimatization.
A climate change.
But this keeps happening. So right now, another company made a pretty massive mistake labeling somebody going into the portal as a tackle last week. And then it became a big enough deal that even Zach Bourne's like, hey, they got to get this guy from Texas A&M. He was an all-SEC freshman, and he's a tackle. Well, That guy, and the panic around Ohio State's like, this has got to be the guy. He's the guy. Well, he played center last year. Mm-hmm. He's hurt. He's not going to start for Texas A&M, and that's why he's leaving. Just because some other company decided to mislabel the position or not do any research about what the guy actually is. It becomes this thing that Ohio State's like in crazy desperation mode. I don't think that the coaching staff feels it to the same level that maybe those of us who have watched it or fans or coming out of Saturday. Like, I don't think that Justin Fry and Ryan Day are like, oh my God, we have to find a starting tackle in the portal. I don't think that's how they feel. I may be wrong, but they believe.
I bet they'd like to have some more options.
I think they'd like to feel better about the depth, but they haven't like.
What about
you felt like they had to put out a Deion Sanders sign and offer $1 million to somebody just to go into the portal? That would mean that they have no faith whatsoever in the projection and the potential for Zen Mahalski and Tiger Shpola. And I don't think that's how they feel.
Well, projection versus I think those guys will be good players.
Versus we need them to be good next year.
I need them to be good next year.
Yeah, I understand that part as well. I think there was a reason that Ryan Day in the middle of last week brought up Paris Johnson struggling in the spring last year before becoming a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Like, they still knew that he had that. Did they feel really good after the spring game about where he was? No, but then they remembered that there's still another summer. There's still guys who've known the system, been in the culture that fit, and then they have twice as many practices in August than you get in March and April. So, does that mean that they're going to be Paris Johnson? No, probably not.
How much can you really scheme to help the offensive line?
Can a lot.
Because now you have 5 months of that to put in place.
You can scheme a lot. If you have one deficient position, you can scheme to help that a lot. What is a trouble is if you have multiple. Yeah. You can always help one guy. And if it's your right tackle, it's one of the easier places to help. Hanging tight end, sliding that way. There's other things you can do to do that. But it also, those things can kind of limit a little bit of what you can do as well. Part of the reason Ohio State had such great success against Georgia last year is the fact that they were able to kind of go 5-on-4 and blocked them up pretty good.
Right. Yeah.
I wasn't like CJ to move in the pocket. He had to scramble a little bit and do some things, but that was the best Georgia had been blocked all year. So you've got to have that ability against elite defensive lines to sometimes go 5-on-4 and get it done.
Which is good. They seem to be better run blocking, right? So that at least is a positive. And then when you want to throw, that's the problem, though. When you want to throw, you put a tight end there. Or is Mitch Rossi coming back again? We need him to chip on the edge over there.
Dr. Rossi is out of eligibility.
The good news is
you turn the loose end into a tight end.
Hey. The good news is you can limit yourself a little bit because you have Marvin Harrison and Emeka Ibuka and 5 running backs and Julian.
Or if you have these tight ends who can get down the field and make plays, then you know that opens things up there as well.
So to go back to your original question, what are the odds they find a tackle? I bet they probably bring one in. Is it someone that you should be counting on or expecting to start right away or to eliminate the concern? I don't think that's the case at this point.
So the odds of the starting right tackle not being on this roster right now, you'd say are very low.
For Indiana, I would be shocked if somebody else was starting other than Shbola or Mahalski. I just
or Donovan Jackson.
I mean, I agree. However it works, that break glass in case of emergency option of moving Donovan Jackson out to left tackle and moving Fryer back to right seems to me to now make a little bit more sense. But I know you don't want to do that because you
spent all spring practice.
I like Donovan Jackson guard. I mean, there's a lot of power.
He's going to be an NFL guard, and you don't want to take that away from him where his development is. But at the same time, if you can show NFL scouts that, hey, he can also kick out and play left tackle, which is what he was in high school, then now you're maybe helping him because the NFL's only carrying 7 offensive linemen, and you can, help.
Position versatility.
Right. So there is benefit, and I guess
there's also more solutions on the interior than on the edge.
Yeah,
yes. If you put Enoch Vamahi back in there at guard, okay, he's a veteran player. He's been through this a long time. He could certainly get that job done, I think. Now, if you're having to scramble a tackle,
it's always easier to hide those guys in the middle. Yeah. I mean, that just is the way it is. Now, I think there's still work to be done there too, because some of those runs, some guys are being missed by guys in the middle. But it definitely is a little bit easier to hunker those guys down there. The edges, you got to have. I don't know if I like taking Fryer away from left tackle. I mean,
Josh was serviceable.
Not that he was great, but I mean that's where he's been. So it's like all of a sudden, all right, well, all that we're throwing it away. Yeah. We're going to move you back over here for camp, and then see how that goes. I I feel like it's to a point where you got to make a decision and just.
There will be a
this,
point where
this is what we're going with. This is what we got.
There will be a point
Let's
in
make
camp,
it happen.
probably middle of camp, where whatever we're going to do, we got to.
Yeah, you got to, because it's getting down to
the nitty gritty.
Fishing in the dark.
Anything else?
No, I don't have anything else. I mean,
No.
I'm just here to just add.
I mean, it was a huge day. You had a bunch of kids around on Saturday. It wasn't a great.
There was a bunch of young dudes.
Yeah, there was a bunch of young dudes around.
Anybody of note, young dudes.
Got two commitments on Saturday.
Two commitments on Saturday.
Are we to 20 yet?
No, 12.
Did we hit our 12?
Hit 12.
Hey,
Called it.
Called it.
I said 12.
I thought you said 14 actually.
I did not.
I think it was 20.
I said. All right.
Who were the two?
That was Sam Williams-Dixon and then Max LeBlanc.
Hello, Matt
Matt
LeBlanc.
LeBlanc.
Oh, how you doing?
Joey is such a great character.
How are
He
you
is.
doing?
He's doing fine. He committed to Ohio State. 4-star tight end from Chattanooga by way of Montreal.
Canada, eh?
Hey,
We got a
Kind of a
Canadian?
freaky athlete, man. You watch this film and it looks like he's on fast forward and the rest of the guys aren't, which is always positive. 6'5", 225 tight end. They're going to look for a second tight end in this class, and think they have that probably with Demarion Witten up at Cleveland Glenville, so you can get that elusive two-man class that you've been.
there are tight ends that are going to be
talking about?
moved to tackle at some point. aren't they?
Just really casually drop that in there.
Demarion Witten is 6'3", 220
Guess he's not worried about being
pounds.
aggregated anymore.
He's 6'3", 220. I mean, I think he's still the guy that, he's from Glenville. That always helps. Ohio State has prioritized him early. They've told both these guys, we're taking two tight ends in this class, period. So there's not a lot of hand-wringing about it. Yeah, it was a good weekend. The best thing for Ohio State was really just to get Jeremiah Smith back on campus, the 5-star wide receiver, number one player in the country. He got to hang out with Garrett Wilson, got to just
that doesn't stink.
the whole weekend. Just
70, 75 degrees, feeling good about it.
Yeah,
And this Ohio weather is perfect.
The quarterback was there as well.
Aaron Nolan came back, which was a surprise. He texted on Friday night and said, "Hey, I am coming down to Columbus tomorrow." So he was debating whether or not to do it because there was a Rivals Camp Series stop in Atlanta on Sunday morning that he had to be there for. So as long as he could find a flight back to Atlanta on Saturday night, then he did. That was just beneficial to have him around. All the offensive line commits.
A lot of recruits.
There was a lot of very talented young offensive linemen visiting on Saturday. And Ohio State very smartly, the number one offensive tackle in the class of 25, so a sophomore turning into a junior, was there with Paris Johnson pretty much the whole time when Monica Johnson spending time with David Sanders' mother, and that's the type of thing Ohio State does better than pretty much anyone else.
Because they got high quality parents.
Recruiting parents is a huge part of successful recruiting. And it's a big deal for a player when Gene Smith comes down and is introduced to the player himself and spends time talking to him. That's when you kind of know that the Buckeyes are unfurling the scarlet carpet.
I met a dude on Friday, linebacker from Central Virginia area. His name is escaping me.
Come on,
Berm. The 25.
He's a rising junior.
I know. Ohio
State
State offered him on the visit. His name is.
He was pretty awesome.
I haven't spoken much to him. I know that he visited Wednesday, Thursday, and then they offered him before he left. That's the type of
better get to know him, Berm.
It's the type of player that James and Jim are really going after. They're getting a lot more aggressive offering linebackers. I think they offered 4 2025 linebackers last week. So it's just trying to ride that momentum that, James provides such a different boost to the recruiting line.
The heart line of the defense.
He should be.
Some would say.
He has that ability to connect with the kids on a different level. And, people have this very jaded opinion of Jim Knowles as a recruiter, but when kids get a chance to sit down with him and talk about football with him and figure out this dude's really smart, it changes the dynamic. Peyton Pierce, the linebacker from Texas who committed to Ohio State last Tuesday, he told me that everyone's saying, "Oh, James," which is fair because he wouldn't have been offered by Ohio State without James. But
sometimes that Jimmy thing slide.
It was the conversation that he had with Knowles on the whiteboard that he said really kind of pushed him over the top. Where he said, "I don't need to look anywhere else." So things are good.
The final fluff, if you will.
Buckeyes are up to number 2 in the class according to Rivals, behind Georgia. Georgia has 14 commits, I think. So it's probably see a little bit of a dive here, like a slowdown for a month.
What about the D tackle from Georgia? Is he any good? Or was that what I saw a report he was in the portal?
Oh, Barry Alexander.
Yeah, Barry. Yeah,
that's not an Ohio State
Okay.
It's not a character fit.
Correct. That's not a
culture.
That's not a fit for Ohio State. But
a salty tackle. I'm like,
they will play
one of
against him in
those.
the Big Ten, where he ends up at USC, because I think his parents were at the USC spring game on Saturday.
Nice.
There you
Oh,
go.
that's
The day that he
What a
announced he was in the
coincidence.
transfer portal, so that
How
does
about
How
them
did that happen?
apples?
There are no
Uh,
rules.
How was the concert in the Woody? Did you make a lot of tips, Bob?
It was awesome.
Didn't even get to sling any beers.
What?
It's not us there to be pretty
I
faces.
came in with my wristband on, I had a bottle opener. I was
you
ready.
really
to
have
no,
one?
I thought about it,
He'd been
but then we didn't even get to open a beer.
He'd watched Cocktail 3 times this
Oh
week.
yeah, I was ready to rock.
It was
Spinning
good.
That seems
bottles
like-
around.
That's confusing advertising.
I drank plenty of.
We were there.
Coors Light.
We were by the bar.
Yeah, stayed pretty close.
Yeah, we were by the bar, but
was,
like-
was it weird to have a concert in there?
It was pretty cool,
it
actually.
was actually pretty neat. Yeah, they did a good job. I mean, for having basically 2 weeks to throw it together,
Yeah.
it looked like they had months to throw
Yeah.
it together.
Everybody
and
loved it, and
It was really cool.
I think they're
It was
going to
a
try
cool
to
deal.
make it kind of an annual deal. Maybe even take it outside if it's nice. The thing that's good is the weather's always good in there. You don't have to worry about
Well,
rain.
yeah.
And it's a huge venue,
You can flip it around outside on one of those fields pretty
Yeah.
easy if the weather's good that day or the forecast.
and like it's cool because everybody goes to the stadium. You guys get to go in the facility, but not a lot of people. I mean,
Get to be in there.
I
Yeah.
think my wife's been in the locker room one time. We've been together for 20 some years. It's just
and you've had a
most
key to that
women.
place
Yeah,
all 20 years.
What'd you
and
guys do
yeah.
when you snuck in there?
there's
Yeah.
nothing there. We walked in there. There's
Saturday
people in there.
night.
There's
Hey,
people in
there's
there.
nobody in the
I
Woody.
tried to
Let's go
get.
get
I
a-
was trying to get Evan to do an acoustic show.
He takes Courtney
in,
down there
in the hot tub.
to the cafeteria
I
and
said-
makes her make eggs for her.
Let's go. Over.
We're out of eggs. I got a kitchen down there.
I said, let's go down to the aquatic room, and we can get
A
an
little hot
acoustic
tub,
show.
popping bubbly.
Yeah, sit in the hot tub, hang out for a little bit.
Folks, JC's with some pop culture on fire.
Hey.
I love it.
If you're on a music service, download North to Nashville.
North to
North of
Nashville.
Nashville. Oh, they're
Evan
great.
Blankenship, very entertaining country music.
Very much.
I think the coach has had a great
He got a
time,
great
too.
voice. He's got a
He does.
spectacular singing
I
voice.
forgot to ask him if he studied geography at Ohio State because
Yeah.
North to
Well, it
Nashville.
wasn't.
Well, he's
it,
from Pittsburgh.
it
it
changed.
still makes it hard to go north.
He
You
had
have
to
to
he had to
go
go. He had to change the
all the way
two.
around.
I think when they made the name.
Yeah.
I feel like it was north from Nashville, and they had to change that for copyright purposes or something.
So they decided to sacrifice.
So they went to
accuracy.
2. Yes.
I like North to Nashville.
You never know. Maybe.
Hey,
maybe they
all you
can-
got to do is flip the map.
We don't know where they were coming from
Maybe
when
he-
they
yeah,
made the
yeah, you
name.
don't know. Maybe
They
he
may have
was
been
living
coming
in-
from
maybe
Florida.
he
We're
was
like,
living in Florida at the time.
we're going north
That's
to
fine.
Nashville, and they're like,
All I'm
holy
saying
crap.
is that I've never asked him.
All I'm saying
And
is
I would like some more
download their
information.
music, support their music.
Yes.
Former Buckeye offensive lineman.
Great
They're
man.
amazing.
They're
Check them
good.
out. They'll be playing all over Columbus this summer. They play every weekend, I feel like.
Yeah, then they should. We'll bring him into Roosters too. That he'll have him on. Great friend of a fun casual.
They should
joint.
probably write us a theme song.
I'm sure he would do that.
That would be great.
We're all full of ideas as we wrap up here. It's been a great show. We missed Nicole Cox. She will be back next Monday as we return here tomorrow.
Cheesy bacon fries.
Cheesy bacon fries on Appetizer Thursday. You can come get them for $3 for Bill Landis, Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us in here at Roosters. It's a fun casual joint, and this has been a fun casual show on the podcast. We'll see you next week.